Good day and welcome to my special guest interviewee for the month of July 2024. My dear friend who was also my youngest daughter's reading teacher, Jacqueline Miller, or Jackie as I call her, who has the pleasure of teaching our children, her young students, and then her third grade class at Elon Academy here in New Orleans. She was a fun teacher who made learning new things interesting and fresh. Through the years, we've maintained our friendship and have stayed in contact, keeping one another on what's going on in our lives at the moment. It is with great pleasure that I welcome Jacqueline Miller, or as I call her, Jackie. Welcome to Reads Being Refined by the Fires.
Thank you so much. I'm super honored to be here. And so I really appreciate you selecting me.
Thank you. I'd like to pray us in.
Okay.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this month's podcast interview with my friend Jackie. Help us engage in meaningful discussion, allowing us to fall on fertile ground. We know that it is your desire that no one would live in darkness and perish. We know that you desire,
Speak to my friend, Lord.
We know that you desire that no one live in darkness, but instead come into the kingdom through knowledge that you allow the Holy Spirit to release on us as we listen to the words spoken in this interview. Allow them to see that in spite of problems and troubles that we often face in the world, that is no reason to stop believing, praying to you, and casting our cares on you. You love on those who are blinded in any way that they might see things as they really are in the world. Give us the right words to say to capture people's attention. And I pray that they are led to share this interview with whoever they believe could also benefit from something they learned or was amused by, aka edu-tainment, to be both educated and entertained. These are our prayers through Jesus Christ our Lord Savior. Amen.
Amen. That was wonderful.
Thank you. So, Jackie, how are you really doing today?
Thank you for asking. I'm doing pretty well. I'm here in the hot city of Memphis, so no complaints. Other than that, I'm here with my family, so I'm doing pretty well today. And I have the next couple of days off before educational work starts, so I'm doing exceptionally well to be off work.
You just finished teaching summer school too, right?
I did. We had about 23 days of summer school.
Wow.
Help kids get to their next grade level, actually. And so the grade I had was called Rising Third, which means the kids are, slated to go to third grade, but they need some additional intervention to help them get there. So.
Okay. Wow. Well, did everyone make it?
For math, they did. I'm not for sure when it comes to ELA because students are required to take ELA classes and math classes due to the new third grade state laws here in Tennessee. But from looking at the data after I graded test scores, students had made exceptional growth. And so really proud of having some students actually show, that they were able to go from not having conceptual understanding at the beginning of the summer school program to actually being independent enough to do the problem on their own.
That's wonderful. You the teacher's teacher. And I'm sure that was a good break after coming back because you made, hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. We met at Elon Academy Charter School, where you worked on the West Bank in New Orleans. And you were our teacher, our daughter, Jean-Michelle's reading teacher. But you taught third grade, and she was in the second. But her and two other little kids had advanced reading, so they would come to your class for their reading lesson. And Then they go, after they finish doing their reading in your class, they go back to their class for the rest of the day. But I am so proud. And then at the end of the year, I told this in another of my episodes before this, that Dawn was advanced. She started reading at 3 years old.
Okay.
So
That's
she
amazing.
was, by the time she got in kindergarten, she had read all the little early reader books that her kindergarten teacher had. She had already read all of them. We had to get her first library card when she was in kindergarten so she could keep a supply of books, because reading is fundamental. If you can't read, it's like that's a major handicap.
It is. And
so,
to have her be advanced, that's a good dilemma to have. So
yeah,
you should be proud of yourself as a parent. Your husband should definitely be proud.
Yeah. And we are. She's a great kid. Yeah. So that's how we met. And, but you care to share your experience, at Elon Academy?
Sure.
Your experience with her or teaching the kids as a whole. How was that experience for you?
Most definitely. I had a really great time because this was my first opportunity to be a founder of a new school. And so I was able to see what a charter school should look like from ground up, as well as being instrumental in beating the pavement and knocking on doors to be able to increase our enrollment and actually have students. And so that was an amazing experience. I really enjoyed it. I was able to coach my co-teacher, basically, because she was still in college and she needed some assistance just learning how to be a brand new teacher. Yeah. And then being able to meet students like Zon Michelle, who thrive off of learning and hunger for it. And so it makes my job more fulfilling to have students like her and, a few more who truly love learning. And it allows me to be even more engaging because I love learning. And so it actually allows us to have fun while learning, but also have the opportunity to see me be a real person and a big kid and not just Miss Miller.
Exactly. I think that was it. You were the fun teacher. She loved her other teacher. I forget what class, who was her second grade teacher at Elon, but because she'll be going to the 8th grade now, and this was a long time ago. But she's going to a different school, and her experiences, her foundation at Elon has set her up to continue on the trajectory that she's on. So she'll be starting 8th grade this year at Willow High School. It used to be Lusher, but they renamed it, and it's now Willow School. They have the elementary school, the middle school campus, and now she'll be going to school in 8th grade, but on the high school campus. Yep.
That's awesome.
And she'll be taking, I think it's geometry this year.
Okay.
Yeah, she took algebra in her 7th grade year. So she's steady climbing.
That's awesome. Yeah, geometry was not my favorite. I preferred algebra. But I'm just excited to hear about her growth.
Yeah.
She's an amazing kid. So, yeah.
But unfortunately, you had to leave the school because of your mom's health. You were going back and forth at one time between where she was living and then back to New Orleans. And you ended up leaving because of her health and your hunger for more in your occupation, right?
Correct.
Okay. So you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. Several years back, I would say about 16 years back, my mom attempted suicide. And so being an only child, I was responsible for her care. Initially, my mom was supposed to move to New Orleans with me, but around last minute, she changed her mind. And I didn't recognize at the time that that was something that I should have made a big deal about, because she made that abrupt decision, like after me getting my home, after me making sure that I had a home big enough for her, myself, and my pet at the time. And so I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. After being there for, I guess, almost like about a year maybe, my domestic partner, Frederick, let me know that he had been noticing some things with my mom. My mom was actually living in our house at the time, but when I moved to New Orleans, she just stayed here. And so he called and shared some things, named some behaviors she's exhibited before. And so I came back and forth to check on her with that. And I noticed that she was exhibiting those behaviors. In the past, when I come in, I'm able to get my mom back on track, either from my method of shock treatment or from having her go and see other professionals. And so, unfortunately, it made me have to make an abrupt decision to leave mid-year, break my lease, and things that were actually, provided a negative impact in my life.
Yeah.
But I actually had no choice. And so prior to moving back, I reached out to a couple of colleagues I had worked with in the past, and they named that there was a position open for a math coach. Math is my thing. I love math. Reading is great, but I love math. And so once getting there, they recognized that, hey, you're great in ELA too. And so they made me the K2 ELA and math instructional coach for the elementary, for kindergarten through second grade. And so even though I had to leave kids and come back and take care of my mom, it still provided me with an opportunity to showcase my skills and talents that I wasn't necessarily able to showcase because I was in the classroom. And that's not a negative about being in the classroom. Being a teacher in the classroom, you're only able to showcase so much. And so being outside of the classroom allowed me to have a dual duty, to go back into the classroom to show teachers what it should look like, as well as take a step back and be able to be a leader, look at data, and see what next actions we need to take to increase our student growth.
So you were the teacher's teacher as well as the student.
Correct.
So you had double duties.
Yes, because of the teacher.
I'm hoping for more pay.
Well, you're only going to get paid for one role, so the paycheck often does not match the headache. But I was, able to see teachers grow as well. Yeah. And so my purpose was fulfilled in that role.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. So you were the teacher's teacher and the student's teacher.
Yes.
Wow.
But it was super beneficial.
Okay, but going back to, I'm sorry.
No,
it was beneficial.
Yes, it was beneficial. I mean, it definitely wasn't easy, but it was super beneficial at the end of the year to see students' reading levels increase, math levels increase. And so that's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, I guess you can say.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said your method of shock treatment for your mom. What is that method? Or can you say?
It's definitely probably not approved by the FDA. Or
tough love.
Yeah, a lot of tough love. My voice can be super stern, so that's when you hear me talk about being a big kid. I always make sure to have a level of respect that's required with kids, but I can still be a big kid. And so
I think that's another thing that the kids liked about you, because you were relatable on their level, but you were still an adult. So it was kind of like they go from, but is that hard for most kids to get used to? I mean, because I'm thinking at some point they like, oh, she like one of us, and they'll forget your role, that you're still an adult. But you had that problem getting some back under control? I'm like, hey, enough. This Miss Miller now, not friend.
Well, normally I don't, because at the beginning of the school year, I first meet kids. If it's day one, and if you miss day one and you come on day 5, you're still going to get the feel from me. And the basic feel is I don't like to fuss at kids. I like to have fun. I like to educate. I like to increase your brain power to be even smarter than me. However, we can't do that if you don't follow the rules. Now, if you follow the rules, there are extreme consequences. I mean, if you don't follow the rules, there are extreme consequences. But if you follow the rules, we can have fun, we can learn, and still have fun at the same time. I let them know that I love to reward them. So they never know what day I got something in my bag to give them that they've earned. And so I always lay a foundation with kids. I always, encourage them to do the right thing so that we can all have a good time every single day. And so if there are kids who, maybe they had something additional in their orange juice, like a little crazy powder, and they want to, act out or pop out, I quickly remind them. And it depends on the student. So it's a case-by-case scenario. A student that I know has dealt with a lot of trauma, a lot of abusive language, I'm going to respond to that kid a little differently. So my tone is going to be lower when I address that kid. I'm going to come out way more empathetic than authoritative. Like, hey, I want you to do X, Y, Z because I want you to learn. I want you to be here. And so I'm giving that kid like love all at the same time. I'm setting the expectations of what I want in my classroom. Versus, another kid, let's say Michelle. She never had any issues doing this because she knows her parents don't play. But let's say if I'm using her as an example, if she did, my voice would be way more stern because I know Zon is being loved. I know she's being cared for. And even though it's not going to be abusive, my approach to Zon may be a little bit more different because the level of the expectation is already there. She doesn't need to build up to that level of expectation versus the student who expectations have never been set, and I need to do that for the kid.
So that's good. You meet every child where they are.
Yes.
But you set your expectations. You let them know what your expectations are, but you can come down and meet them at the level where they are to help bring them up, those who need it. I am so glad. I absolutely love teachers, and I am proud to have been able to experience the things that I've done. I thought my brain stroke when I had Zon was something bad, but this has turned around for me because I didn't have the experiences to interact with the teachers, and I didn't desire to interact with the teachers with my older kids. But with Zon, I'm having a totally different experience, and I'm being able to see actually what the teachers go through and appreciate them for who they are. I mean, you guys have lives of your own. You don't just clock out of the job and go home and get to do whatever you want to. You have to literally you have homework too. Because you have to check the papers of the assignments you gave that day or the test that you gave. You still have work to do when you get home. And God forbid if you have a family, you have to make sure your kids and your husband has what they need or your spouse has what they need in addition to what your kids need the next day or the next week. So my hats are off to you. You are rock stars in my eyes. It's like I knew that teachers, I didn't realize, I had never thought about how, other people on other jobs you go to, when you clock out, you done. But that's not the same for teachers. And that had never occurred to me before. I actually had this experience, and now I'm getting to see it from a total opposite experience by seeing hands-on. It's like when I leave work, it's like I leave work at work. If I take work home, that's because I wanted to. You guys don't have a choice. If you want to be prepared for the next day, and you have to be prepared in order so your students can be prepared. Because if you come to work and you're not prepared, that's just not going to work at all.
Right. I will say this, hopefully if this will help any teachers. It's rare that I bring work home as a teacher. As a principal, and of course we'll talk about that later, but as a principal, yes, I always brought work home. As a brand new teacher, I brought work home. As a more seasoned teacher, I did not bring work home other than for, let's say, maybe the first 2 weeks of the beginning of the school year. Once I went in as an educator, had that summertime to do professional development, did find out what the curriculum is, I'm instantly asking, where's the notebook that has all of the units that I need? Where's the notebook that has the standards and the information and the student material? I'm instantly going in, creating the things I need, making student copies so that I am prepared. I'm taking lesson plans home and working on them. Well, those 2 weeks that I sacrificed at the beginning of the school year allow me to be freed up for the rest of the school year. Because when my students are going to planning periods, if they're going to PE, if they're going to music, art, whatever it is, if I'm not in a data meeting, well, I have about roughly 40 minutes to plan. And so what that looks like for me is if there are lesson plans I need to work on, I'm using that time for lesson planning. If there are student materials I need to make, I'm making copies. And so I think sometimes teachers get a little distracted, and this is coming from someone who obviously has ADHD because of how organized I need to be. It's okay to chat and have camaraderie with your fellow teachers and colleagues. But if you set a goal for yourself to get that lesson plan done, because that's enough time to actually, once you become a seasoned teacher, get at least one lesson plan done, annotated, internalize the lesson. That's enough time to get that done. And so you may have to just tell your friends and colleagues, hey, ain't chat today for 30, 40 minutes. I got to get this lesson plan done.
Yeah.
And so you just have to be prepared to do that. But that's my method to the madness, to not take work home. I also use that planning, and I prioritize. If I need to plan lesson plans during that time, that's what I do. If I need to grade some student work, that's what I do. It's all about, what are my top 3 priorities? How much time do I have? What's number one? What do I need to get done either now or by end of day? And so it just takes a lot of preparation.
You mentioned ADHD. Do you have ADHD?
I do.
I could never tell. I couldn't tell because you're so on it.
Well,
I can't tell. I think I don't know. For some reason, I relate ADHD as somebody all over the place. And you've done a great job at masquerading that. Because had you not said that, I didn't have a clue.
Well, I think there are some misconceptions about ADHD simply because it's in different forms for different people. And so, for some, they may be all over the place and can't organize their thoughts. For me, it looks like what I just said. If things are still a bunch of things are still happening, I guess as my grandmother would say, irons in the fire. And so I may be prepping lesson plans. I may have student copies running on the copier. While prepping lesson plans, I'm going to get those copies out the copier. I'm placing the copies on my student desk. So there are about 3 or 4 things that are happening.
Going on at the same time.
Yes, but they're organized things.
Yeah.
And so once you find a way to combat your ADHD and, get on that bull and turn it into a baby cow, that's how a lot of things are still going on, but it's
organized. Yeah.
Yes.
I like that, organized chaos, because that's what a lot of teachers are. It's like you gotta be. It's a juggling act, and you have to be on it all the time. If not, if you start letting balls fall, before you know it, you're gonna be just standing there and you ain't gonna have no balls left, and it's just off the rail. The whole train and been turned over.
Yes.
Yep. It's good that you say. I admire that. Prioritizing and planning.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the only way you're going to get things done. And for somebody that has ADHD, that's the only way you're going to not feel all over the place. Because ADHD can sometimes make you less motivated to do things because you feel like I got 10 things I got to get done. Well, let me take the 3 most important and get those done.
First.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now let's just go back and reflect on your upbringing.
Okay.
Who were you raised by, and are they still living?
Well, for me, that's a little loaded because initially I was raised by my mother and my grandmother, who actually was not my blood grandmother. She adopted my mom. And so my mom was pregnant at 17, was super smart, got a 4-year scholarship at 17, but had to fight to get it back at 18 because she was still in high school at 17 and pregnant with me. She turned 18. She went to college, of course. My grandmother told her that she could go and stay on campus. It was at Mississippi Valley State University, Go Devils, which is about 15 minutes from, my family home. And so my grandmother gave her that experience with the disclaimer, you cannot get pregnant again. Although, back then a lot of people weren't talking about how you should not get pregnant, like what are the preventive methods. She was still, given that ultimatum, you can't get pregnant while you're in college. And so she didn't. 2 years into college, my grandmother got sick. My mom had to come home and just commute back and forth to college. She finished, got her 4-year degree in computer science and mathematics, and just began her career from there. My grandmother raised me because she was influential in helping my mom get there. And then I truly experienced having a village because I lived born in a shotgun house, but lived in a community that was so wealthy and loved. And so it was Miss Georgie, who was my grandma's neighbor. And I got so many experiences because she was super fair to the point of she was white passing, had very long silverish gray hair that she always kept in a braid wrapped around. She was the one who always kept me full to the point of having to lie to my grandmother that I didn't eat over there. And so she would feed me, and we would watch Murder, She Wrote, and Columbo, and she would make me banana bread and lemon meringue pie. And so growing up, my grandmother always said, if somebody asks you if you want something to eat, you tell them no. And so I made that mistake, and I learned this lesson by going home. Like, well, I cook fried chicken, X, Y, Z. And I was like, well, I'm already full. So how dare you? You don't let people think you didn't eat at home. So I was like, okay, now I have to learn to make executive decisions at the age of 6. So I couldn't be, I couldn't hurt Miss Georgie's feelings by telling her no when she's laid out this bread for me and we're, eating on dinner trays, watching old school dinner trays, watching TV. So it's like, okay, I got to learn how to eat so much and then still have enough room to eat when I go home.
Wow.
A lot of people raised me.
That's a good problem to have. You were loved. You were loved. In spite of your mom's, I'm not going to say mistake.
Having me.
In spite of,
she didn't know what she was doing. She didn't know what she was doing. My father knew what he was doing, but she didn't know what he was doing. Did
you ever have a relationship with your father?
I did. As a kid, I would go and visit him. My mom was that kind of parent. Like, hey, your dad wants to be with you. Your father's family wants to be, spend some time with you. So he did. And so I would come and visit him every summer. He lived in Memphis. I lived in Greenwood. They're about 2 hours away. And so I would come and visit him. My father married a lady, and they had 2 kids after me. And so you don't get better than the first. So they had 2 additional kids after me, and
you broke the mold.
Visit. I did. There was no way to change that or go back. So yeah, so I would visit them, and unfortunately, she was not the caliber of woman that my mom was. And I'm not just saying that because she's my mom. I'm saying that because of my experiences. And she would be mean to me. She bleached my clothes at one point, and I was popping. I was poor, but my grandma was a seamstress. And so all my stuff was custom made. So all these people from my New York Fashion Week, my stuff was custom made because we were poor. My mama couldn't go at the time. She couldn't go back and forth to the store, but I had every outfit I wanted. And so that lady, she bleached my clothes. Her and my mom got into an argument over the phone, and she bleached my clothes. And so just different summers, something different would happen. If it wasn't her bleaching my clothes at one point, it was her cooking burnt food for breakfast because she was a horrible cook. And that may not have been on purpose. It may have just
exactly. It might have been a matter of not skilled in that list because everybody can't cook.
Yes, it's true. So, but
I learned that here because growing up, I always thought, "Ooh, Louisiana got good food. I know them people can cook." No, that ain't the case.
That's not the case.
No.
So yeah, so that was my experience, and then I learned what life and what marriage should look like because when I would come to Memphis, my father was abusive, and he would fight his wife. My mom, and I asked her one day, had he ever done that to her? Because I was gonna stomp his toe or something. I was gonna find a way if he had. And
you were 4 years old and thinking to do this?
Yeah, because I'm an old soul. Like how people say, feel like you've been here before. My grandma used to always say that. That girl been here before. And so I asked her, and she said he raised his hand at her before. And because she was telling him I needed pampered. He's like, what everybody said. He raised his hand, and she told him very, candidly, if he did, she would go in the house and get her peacemaker, and she would make sure he got peace in his life. And so he said that he gently put his hand down, called her crazy, and that never happened. So it's probably why he respects my mom to this day. But yeah, he would be abusive, and I'm like, that's not how I live back home. Coming up with a Southern grandma who was married 3 times back in that day, she didn't play. And so I was like, this isn't right. And so it did happen for several years to the point where I decided, like, hey, I don't want to go visit anymore. We stopped communicating. We tried again. Even though I have to say this because I had this conversation with my mom the other day. Even though my father was a deadbeat, I was blessed to have a dad who dated my mom. They never got married, but they dated. They broke up. But he was always dad to me. He is no longer here with us, but that's who dad was. So I had a father figure in my life. I had a couple, actually.
Yeah, that's good. Because all dads not made to be dads.
They're not.
Just like all moms aren't made to be moms. Just because you can have a baby don't mean you should.
Don't mean you should. But when my appendix was infected and my husband at the time could not drive a 6-speed sport car, ironically, my father was in town and he drove me to the hospital. Wow. I sat very still because that I was not probably even supposed to be doing that with my appendix being the way it was. And so even though he's been a deadbeat 97% of my life, that 3% of him being super instrumental in getting me to the hospital when my life was on the line is something I'll always be grateful for.
Wow. But him and your mom weren't married? Or they were?
They weren't.
So they was just long-term boyfriend and girlfriend?
Yes. My mom did get married at one point in her life, and I had a stepfather, but that situation is no more.
Okay. Wow. Learn something new every day. Okay. So, and you're the only child of your mother, correct? You don't have any other siblings? Okay.
Correct.
Other than what? Your step?
Yeah, correct.
And are y'all social?
No.
Okay. All right. Has 2 steps, but not social.
Correct. Well, I guess you wouldn't call them steps. I guess they're half. Because we allegedly have the same father. So.
Lord, don't go there.
I guess they would be half sisters.
And they were girls?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. And, so how has being the only child of your mother, how has being the only child been for you? Was that an advantage, or did you think it was a disadvantage? especially in the situation that you have to deal with your mom and her mental health problems, do you wish you had siblings that could take some of the strain off of you, or do you consider it a strain? How do you feel about that?
Well, I guess that's a twofold question, because as a kid, I enjoyed being an only child. I got everything that I could imagine, pretty much.
Yeah.
And, that was in reach. And so I loved it as a child. But as an adult, when my mom initially got sick, I was super young. I was in a brand new relationship. And granted, he's still here today. He was super instrumental in helping me with my mom. And so as an adult, I thought about like, hey, this could be easier if I could have someone to take over and give me a break. But just with the conversations I've had with, friends and other family members, a lot of times, even when, you have siblings, there is always a matriarch. There's always someone who's responsible for their parents. And so from hearing other people have like 4 or 5 siblings and they still have to be, responsible with no help.
Yeah.
I'm fine with being an only child, even as an adult, because I want to make the decisions. I'm not a super control freak, but I'm super, I'm a really good decision maker. So it's fine. Being extremely transparent, yes, it has been a burden, but I know that, I get angry at times, but I know when I'm angry, I still cast those burdens on God and just ask him to help me. And every single time that it has been a burden to me, I've gotten some type of blessing.
Yeah. He won't put you through anything that he doesn't have a plan for to get you out of.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So, but would you say that's made you even more independent?
Yes, of course, because I don't have a lot of people to rely on. And so most times, granted, I have my boyfriend, I have some really good close family and friends, but most times it's me and God. And so I always go to him and ask him for what decision I need to make. But it's definitely made me be extremely independent from being a child, because you don't have anyone to fight for you. You don't have, anyone to necessarily have your back. So you just learn to walk to the beat of your own drum and make all necessary decisions.
Yeah. And Daddy will do it, won't he?
He will. Every single
Father
time.
God. He will come through every single time. It may not come as you want it or when you want it, but he'll give you what you need to get out of a situation every single time. Yeah.
So true.
Was your family religious when you were growing up?
Yeah, we went to church every Sunday. Grew up, my family was Baptist. And then when I became an adult, I converted to Catholicism.
Okay. Why the change from Baptist to Catholic?
After doing some research, I recognized that I prefer the way Catholics serve God more than Baptist, because a lot of times I got distracted with the song and dance in a Baptist church. Yeah. And my reasoning for going to church is to listen to the message. Yeah. And in the Catholic church, the way they worship, the songs, I'm just able to have a deeper connection with God. And so that was the reason I made the change.
Yeah. Did your mom ever share the story of how she and your dad, how and where she met your dad?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. My grandmother lived down the street from who is now my great aunt, which is her best friend at the time, one of her best friends. My dad came over to visit his auntie, and my grandmother and mom were there, and the rest is history.
So your grandmother, hold on.
My grandmother was best friends with her. Her name is Ernestine. This lady was not my aunt at the time; it was my father's aunt, and he was visiting her. And my mom and grandmother just so happened to be there at the house. And they started conversing, and that's how I got here.
Wow. Well, I think it took a little more than that.
Well, Yeah, but I say
It took a little more than
you
that.
you have to use words to influence the person to get you to the next step. So
Yeah.
and he was
And
very
how long were
influential
they?
apparently.
How long were they together before you came along?
And maybe she said maybe about a year, but it wasn't a long relationship.
Okay. And did they break up right after you came?
I think it was maybe, I don't know exactly. I think maybe a year or two after. Because the kids that are allegedly his, I think the oldest daughter on that side may be like 2-3 years younger than me.
Okay. Wow. And you say your grandmother, your mother's mom, had a big part in your upbringing, right?
Yes.
Can you share what you told me most recently about your mom, the differences that they had? Your mom's not a fighter, but your grandmother believed that you fight, you do whatever it takes to stand up for yourself. I thought that was funny.
She was the one who, my mom was like more about the book. So it was like if someone tried to, bully me at school or say something, it's like, go tell the teacher and the teacher will handle it. But my grandmother was like, I'll make sure not to curse in your podcast, but my grandmother was more like, you're not going to do what she said do because that's going to cause you to get beat up. And if you get beat up at school, when you come home, you will have a second fight. And I didn't want that. She was about 60, size 24W. I was like a string bean. I did not want that. And so I, once again, had to make quick executive decisions on what I needed to do.
I love the way you say executive decisions.
They were.
Nobody uses that in a regular, everyday conversation, but you use that a lot. You say executive decisions.
I felt like they were because at the time I had 2 senior leaders over me telling me what I need to do, and the CEO and the director are not connecting. So, okay, let me decide what I need to do, but I need to have a rationale for it after I do it, just in case the CEO finds out about it. So,
and who was the CEO? Your grandmother
was the CEO. No, my mother was the CEO. Grandma's executive director, but executive director had more power than the CEO.
Okay.
So, they were just titles. Oh yeah. And I got in a lot of fights. I won a lot of them, and my mom didn't find out until I was an adult. Because she wasn't happy. Well, she found out about one fight that happened in school because they called her. And I got suspended for a day, and my mom was really upset because she was a brainiac. She made me a nerd, and so she's like, you gotta miss a day at school, yada, yada, yada. You're gonna get a whipping. And in a very nice way, my grandmother let her know that if I received corporal punishment, she would also receive corporal punishment.
So needless to say, you didn't get that whooping.
So that meeting was adjourned, and everyone was more like nanny boo boo, ha ha. So we're both gonna get corporal punishment.
If you whoop me, you gonna get whooped too.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit and watch it and see my tongue at it too and everything because you're getting whipping too.
So, what words of wisdom did they impart in you that you'll always remember? From your mother when you was coming up and with your grandmother?
Mostly they just told me that I could do anything. And it more so came with words of wisdom, but also action. And so letting me know I could do anything looked like, hey, you can learn how to type at 9 years old and do it with adults at a university class, or learn how to swim at 6. And so they just always, I guess, saw the drive in me as a child and always motivated me, always gave me, I guess what people are calling now like words of affirmation. I never questioned being loved, and I never questioned being able to do any single thing. And so they just always gave me words of encouragement and motivation. Told me how smart I was, and just said it to me.
I understand it's important to have a man in the house, but so you didn't even miss having a dad, growing up with your dad and mom in the house, because you had your grandmother and mother.
I had my grandmother, I had my mom, I had my next door neighbor, Miss Georgie, I had my great aunt, who was, the reason my mom and dad met. She lived down the street, so I had her. I had other neighbors in the neighborhood who were all elderly, but still in their sound mind and good health. And so they all watched out for me. They all, I was all of their babies.
You had the village.
All of them. I had the village, wrapped around my finger too. Yeah. And not only that, my mom was, even though she was young, she made really great decisions that caused me to have positive individuals in my life. And my aunt and uncle, which is my father's sister, they had 4 boys, no girls. And so they wanted to adopt me. And my mom was said no. They basically thought because at 17, 18, you don't know what to do with a baby, you should give her up.
Yeah.
Well, she wasn't going for that. But what she did allow is for them to come and pick me up on weekends. She said that when I was 3 years old, I wouldn't go to sleep when they tried to keep me overnight, and I cried and made them bring me back home at around 2 in the morning. And so I guess after I got bigger, I was independent and in control of the style, I guess. But as I got older, I would go there every single weekend. They would come and pick me up. They lived about 30 minutes, 40 minutes from us. And they would come and pick me up every weekend. And so I also got that experience of father, mother in the household, although they were my aunt and uncle, and family life and what that should look like. Their religion is very different from ours because they're Jehovah's Witnesses. And so I also saw the way that they worship. It never appealed to me, but I respected them for still having the expectation that if you stay here over the weekend, you're still going to go to the hall with us. Yeah. Now, whether I enjoyed it or not, I guess was another story. But I always respected them for including me in that, setting that expectation, and just giving me an example of what family looks like as well. And so I never missed out. And then my mom, like I said, she was dated another guy. She got married to him. I didn't particularly gel with him. But, he was a figure. I wouldn't necessarily say father figure because I don't feel we ever connected, but I always had positive examples in my life and male figures. And like I said, even when I became maybe 12, 13, having, my dad, Harry Davidson, who's now deceased in my life. And so I just had a wealth of love. Now I'm waiting to life so I can have a wealth of fun.
Cause my mom was 18 when she had me, and I grew up as the baby. My uncles, they grew up as my big brothers, not as my uncles. I mean, in reality, they were my uncles, but I grew up in the house she grew up in. So her brothers were like my brothers, my big brothers, and basically my grandmother was my mama. And I called her mama. That might be ghetto to some people, but I called my grandmother mama. And I called my mama mama. And she used to try to, get me to not call my grandmother mama, but it just didn't work. And then the older grandchildren, they call the first set of grandchildren called her mama just like I did, because I was the first grandchild.
Okay.
So, but I'll get more into that later because I have some forgiveness to do, and I knew that, but I hadn't really. I guess it's like things but you try to put them out your mind, and then when you hear somebody else say them again, it rings a bell. Like, okay, I knew that, but I'm still holding on to unforgiveness. How can I expect God to forgive me? Whew.
It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't.
Start with little things.
It's hard.
And I just start with
hard.
little things that I can easily forgive.
Yep.
If you didn't give me my $20 10 years ago, I'll just go ahead and forgive you for this and be okay with it. But something more serious, if I'm, we like to line things up. And so if I'm lining all the things up that you've done to me, well, I'm going to write those things out maybe. And then I'll start simply forgiving you for some things. And sometimes I may not write them out. I'll just have them in my head. I try not to do that because I try to get my thoughts out on paper. But just start forgiving people for little things, and it makes it a little bit easier to forgive them for the big things.
That's true. I'm going to start doing that. That's a good idea. Did you learn that in therapy?
Just my own experience. I think therapy was a resource that helped me get to that type of thing.
Okay. Because I need therapy. I have a lot of unpacking I need to do from my childhood and things I've experienced. Actually, much of the way I grew up as a child has spilled over into me having a toxic adult life. Because Alex pointed that out to me just yesterday, that because me and I said something really ugly to Zahn, and I regretted it almost immediately because she started crying and would give me even when I said I was sorry, she wouldn't give me a hug. And when me and Alex talked about it, and that hurt me because I don't ever want to be like my mom. I don't ever want to be, I don't want to relive the mom that I don't want to be the monster that my mom was. And I feel like that was heartless, and she was being vulnerable and in there talking with her dad about, what she had did at ballet camp. Basically, she's been putting so much effort into improving in her dance. The other night she was taking care of the blister she rubbed off, of her big toe on one foot. It happened again yesterday on the other foot. And I was like, I didn't even, instead of saying, well, that just goes to show you're improving. No, I took it a whole nother way because she was saying how excited she was because she was chosen to be in a couple of the main ballet selections. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, that's probably because so-and-so isn't there this summer. Just totally disregarding all the effort she's put into. Yeah. And I said it just matter-of-factly, like, oh, that's just because so-and-so's not there. Which that was so wrong of me as the mother. I should not have said that. So
we make mistakes.
We do. We do. I have, and by the end of the night, because she was in there cooking dinner, and we made it up, and she ended up asking me to help her. So I helped her finish making her dinner. But that don't take away what I said, and I don't want to grow up being my mom.
Right.
And Alex mentioned that might be why I have a problem with some of my other kids, because it's not that what I'm saying is wrong, but it's the way I say it.
Well, it sounds like we need to get us a series, honey, on this podcast for mental health series.
Yes, we do. Cause I need a therapist, really, cause I have a lot of trauma that has, like I say, has spilled over into my adult life that I need to deal with. I don't want to just keep sweeping it under the rug because the rug is getting huge. So I need a therapist. So if anybody has any therapist in mind that they would like to refer, I prefer somebody that I can go and sit with, not do it online, because I know they have online therapy now. But no, I need somebody that I can go sit and throw tears with. I need them to feel my pain. And over the phone, I just don't feel like it'd be the same.
So so one day, tomorrow or something like that, or later today, we could definitely chat, just one-on-one about it.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, friend. Sister friend. Yeah. So what were there? Hold on, where was I? Most families have a saying or code they live by, as my childhood has several. If possible, would you care to share one of them with us? A saying that you guys had in your family that you still live by?
We actually didn't. We didn't have like a main saying. I think when you're from the South, there's just so many things you say, but I can't remember a saying that we had in the home or anything like that. I guess maybe biblically, my grandma would always say, like, if the Lord says the same. And that was the, one thing I can remember that was said a lot in our house.
That's something you live by?
I do. I mean, because I say it a lot myself.
Okay.
And so yeah, that was the one that I can remember.
If the Lord says the same, that's it on everything. If the Lord says the same. Yep. So, what got you in trouble the most as a child? Were you talkative or quiet, a liar or honest, selfish or kind-hearted, stubborn or easygoing, a bully or a nice kid, a lover or a hater, bossy or passive?
Definitely. So what got me in trouble most as a kid was, of course, being extremely talkative. That would look like on a report card of having straight A's, but conduct would be terrible. And it would all say ends and U's, like need to control talking or something of that nature. That's where I think my ADHD kind of kicked in, because I was done with the work and I wasn't challenged. Michelle was advanced. I wasn't challenged. And so I would be done, the work would be correct, I would have checked it, and so then I would find something else to do. I did lie a lot to get me out of trouble, or tried to get me out of trouble. So I was not an honest child. I would lie to get myself out of trouble. I was selfish. Being an only child as a kid made me like that. Super selfish. And I maybe somewhat selfish, but somewhat overprotective.
Super selfish.
Well, I didn't want people to break my stuff. And so I was overprotective, I guess, in a sense, because if I let you use allow you to use my toy and you break it, I'm going to be super upset with you. So,
yeah.
And I was stubborn. So I would take a whipping for something that I believed in. I guess I was a Harriet Tubman as a child, because if you can whip me, but if I believe that I was right or what I did was right, I'm still going to take the consequence. Not a bully. A loner more so. Not a bully, definitely. But I believe in standing up to the bully. And, giving them, a little act right if they need it.
Okay.
When was this? I was a lover or a hater. I love my family, but I didn't necessarily gravitate to other people so much. So I was very cautious of people and very bossy. That came with being an only child as well, telling people what I want and, how I want it, what I want you to do. When people agreeing to it, allow me to be, just unnecessarily bossy.
Okay. And you say a loner. I'm going to have to add that to the list. Loner or, what's the opposite of a loner?
I'm more of an
part
introvert.
of being a crowd.
Introvert or extrovert. I have extrovert qualities, but I am more of an introvert.
I'm going to have to add that. Introvert or extrovert. Because, I haven't gotten that question yet, but, a question that I have that I'm going to ask. Introvert or extrovert? I had to add the next question. Which parent was the disciplinarian in your home? Your mom, your grandmother, both, or neither? And after I interviewed my cousin Ty, she said neither. I had to add that because I just knew somebody had to be responsible and discipline the kids in the house. But she said there was no disciplinarian in their house. But I'm like, okay, it takes all. So, so I'm gonna have to add extrovert or introvert for this question because I didn't have a So,
I would say
who was
both.
the disciplinarian?
Both. Mom was more the disciplinarian. My grandmother only became a disciplinarian when I got completely out of my mind and thought I was going to be overly bossy. And then I was reminded that I should, have several seats, or I was made to have several seats. So Mom was mostly the disciplinarian.
Okay, disciplinarian or like punishing or taking stuff away? Because there's different levels.
Well, both, because once she realized that whipping me, spanking me was not working anymore, and I was, just take it and not shed many tears, she did some self-research and some digging on her own and realized that if she took things away from me, that would crush me. And that became my punishment. So she had to switch it up.
But grandma, so what would she do that was different from your mom? Or would she just have to say it?
She just say it or whoop you down. So
okay. What would you get whoopings with? A switch or a belt? Because my grandmother used to get the switch.
She threatened with the switch. I hardly ever got the whipping. She did more threatening. The only couple of times I remember one distinct time I got a whipping from her, and it was because I got grown and at like maybe 10 and thought I was going to put my hands on her. Like I had touched her and I was being sarcastic with it. She was like, don't do that because I know what you're doing. And so I walked past. I was like, excuse me, Grandma. And I did it again. I remember going down to the ground.
Wow.
So not knocked out, but ran away from her because I would run, and I got stuck in that kitchen because it was a shotgun house, and I just put my hands up because I knew the whipping was coming next. So,
what would she whip you with?
At that time, it was a belt because I had became extremely disrespectful, and I needed some redirection.
Yeah, and all kids do.
So it wasn't traumatic or anything. It was just what was next?
It wasn't a beating. It was a whipping.
No. Yes. I never got beaten.
And most kids don't get beatings. You get whipping. And with a belt, regardless, with a belt or a switch, whippings are needed, not beatings. Whippings and beatings are two separate things.
And that was it that I got in my home. I didn't get whipped or spanked with anything else. So
yeah. What was your favorite memory from your childhood and why?
That's a good one. I would say definitely spending time with my grandmother, and we would always walk downtown. Downtown was maybe about 20-minute walk, you could say, back then. And so we would walk downtown. We would go through this trek through the neighborhood, and we would always stop at 3 main places. My grandmother always wore the best suits to church, and she would stop at Antoon. Antoon's was a very ritzy store, and she always got her suits from there because they always carried her size. She was a big lady. And then we would also go to Goldberg's and Connolly. Those were shoe stores, like school places. I always enjoyed going there, and without a doubt, we were going to stop at Shipley's Donuts. And that was always my treat, to get whatever donut I wanted. Plain, field or
Shipley's is the best.
I want. It is, and we don't have
Shipley's
that place anymore.
plain.
Yes, that was the go-to. Shipley's plain.
Oh
and
my
Shipley's,
God.
plain donut rolls. Those were the best, and it was a little corner right by a pharmacy, and of course I don't know what's there now, but that was my fondest memory.
Yeah, I think everybody have a favorite memory with their grandmother. Mine was we used to go downtown. We used to go to parades. We've been to games with my grandmother and her friends. We've been to out to eat because we'd always stop at Woolworth and we'd eat at the counter or in the booth downtown at Woolworth. And I remember we'd order whatever we can't get at home. We'd order like hamburgers. Well, not necessarily we can't get at home. We'd order something junky, trash food. But we'd order junk food, and we couldn't understand. She'd get a vegetable, what she called it, a vegetable plate. That's how she pronounced vegetable.
Right.
I'll just have a vegetable plate, and it's like, Mama, live a little. We eating burgers and chicken and fish, and you getting vegetables. You eat that at home all the time. And she's, no, I just have a vegetable plate. I'm like, okay.
Well, I can't talk on that because I'm like that. There are times you don't want any meat. You just want veggies. Your body just craves the veggies. So I can't be mad at
hers did all the time. Yep. Okay. Who was your best friend at elementary school?
Her name is, ironically, we grew up. We have not done the DNA genealogy test, and we need to. But her name is Adria Miller. She's married now, and so she's Adria Lafalati, and she's been my best friend since 4th grade. And I actually just talked to her yesterday because her sister's got to move here from Texas and moving to Cordova. So we just chatted, not yesterday, day before yesterday, for an hour and some change. And so we've been best friends since 4th grade, and she's still my bestie to this day. She's the reason why I'm in education. Adria Miller Lafalati. Her husband is from the Virgin Islands.
Coincidence. How y'all got the same last name?
Don't know. Her mom and my mom graduated together, same time, pregnant at the same time. It's weird.
And y'all still in contact?
Yes, we talk often.
Okay. So wait, it was Adria Miller what? She got a hyphen. How you spell that?
Well, she goes by Adria Lafalati. I don't think she may use the Miller like in social media or something like that. But I don't think she uses it like, I'm not for sure. I hadn't seen her use it like that.
Okay.
And it's she spelled it Latalladi. She's a grant writer. She's in journalism, so she's super amazing.
And y'all still in touch?
To this day.
That's rare.
We talked this week.
Since 4th grade.
Yeah, she texted me. We try to talk weekly. It's hard with our schedules, but every month we're gonna have a conversation pretty much.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
What was your favorite junk food in middle school?
Probably the fruities, the little candies, it used to be like little 2-cent candies. The green apples. I don't know if you guys had those. They're like little tutti frutti. Those were my favorite. Like candy.
Okay. And what group were you a part of in high school? The popular, the cheerleaders, the athletes, the nerds, the creatives, the choir, the drama club, or even the potheads?
Well, I couldn't be with the potheads because my mom would have had me in rehab for it. She was just that over the top. With any group, I was an athlete, but I didn't hang with the athletes. I wasn't super popular. I was known to be smart, And I only had like a couple of friends that I hung with. I didn't hang with a big group. That's just always been my MO. I keep down confusion like that. And so I didn't hang with a group. There were several groups, like you said, the cheerleaders and things like that, but I just didn't, for me, I didn't fit into any of that because the things that they were doing, my brain was advanced for something else. It was like, I'm not interested in, doing what y'all are doing. So I didn't really hang with a group.
What was your sport when you was an athlete? What did you play?
As pretty much all my life, I was a swimmer, but I didn't do it competitively. I played basketball, and I was mediocre in basketball. I played tennis, and I think that was about it. Oh, and I was a dancer in the band.
Swimmer, tennis, dancer.
They call it a feature dancer. They call them majorettes now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, they got a whole lot of, because I remember when I started, I was getting ready to start high school. The summer, the high school right down the street from my grandmother's house, Booker T. Washington. My older cousin was a majorette. She was already at the school. So, that summer, I had decided I was gonna be, a pom-pom girl who was the ones who danced on the field with the pom-pom. And, I spent the whole summer, bought the costume, bought the uniform and everything for to be it. I quit before the first game.
Oh, no. Well,
yeah. It was I just didn't want to do it.
Okay. Do you regret it?
No.
Okay. Well,
I spent the whole summer, and it was hot. The whole summer practicing. I remember it'd be in the evenings.
Yep.
And I spent my whole summer in the evenings practicing to be a pom-pom girl, and I made it. And bought the uniform and everything, but when that time started winding up and coming, when school opened and the first game was coming up, I quit and I sold my uniform to somebody else.
Oh, wow. Well, it's okay. You can live vicariously through Zon. So,
yeah. So, at what age did you get interested in boys? Now, this question, I've gotten some surprising answers from my pastor and his wife and the last guy I had on. They were like babies, like toddlers, when they were interested in the opposite sex. And I was like, what? That was not on my mind when I was a toddler.
It wasn't for me either. I was, super spoiled and just wanted to be around my family all the time, I think. And I was a tomboy for a significant period of time. So I didn't really start, paying attention to guys until I was about maybe 14, 15. I'd say 15 maybe. And then my mom allowed me to start dating at 16.
Okay. I would say that's average. But
yeah, I mean, I got friends who were already dating, but
yeah, and see, I felt the pressure to everybody else was talking about boys, and I was like, well, I wanted to be part of the group, the cool group, so I thought I had to be in the boys too.
See, and maybe it's because I'm the only child, I didn't want to be in groups, and my mom and I always said, you better not get in no gang and nothing like that. We love you, this and that. And so I never really cared about being in the groups. And then the things I heard from people who were doing things in the groups, like, y'all getting crabs, and y'all, oh no, I'm traumatized. And so, nope, I'll stick right on over here and be just as green and square as a matchbox. I won't be itching, though.
Wow.
So, yep, so that was another reason, people found out if you slept with someone. I'm just like, I don't want that stigma. And I was, I just wasn't interested in that.
Wow. Okay. And what did you want to be when you grew up? Like, I know, not when you was real little, because very few people stick with what they say they want to be in elementary school. But like, by the time you got to high school, where you was really focusing in on your career, what did you want to be in high school?
I would say in high school, I initially wanted to be an attorney. I was good at debating, and so that was the career path I thought I was going to have. But God is super comical, and He decided something else for me. So, yeah.
Wow. And an attorney.
Yes, I did mock trials in college, where we went and competed with other schools, and so I wanted to be I wanted to be a prosecutor and attorney.
Wow. So what made you decide you want to be that?
It was just the idea of studying cases, my feel of wanting to get justice for people. And so I guess that's kind of ties into why I have a in my degrees and what I chose. And so I just always wanted to have some form of purpose with helping people.
Okay.
And that was one way I could make a powerful impact.
Yeah. That's true. A prosecuting attorney could help people. And now you're helping kids learn.
Yeah. So I was supposed to help somebody.
Yeah. Okay. What college did you attend?
I went to Mississippi Valley State University. That's where I got my bachelor's from. And then I went online for my master's at Kaplan University.
What was the name of the online college?
Kaplan, Kaplan. So at Mississippi Valley State University, I got my bachelor's in political science. And online at Kaplan University, I got my master's in criminal justice.
So you still sticking with that?
That was my field. And then, while being in New Orleans, I went to Relay Graduate School of Education and got my certification as a teacher. But yeah, that was my thing. I like helping people, and I like for stuff to be fair. And so often things aren't fair.
God changed your pathway. You're not in law, but you're in education now.
And in some sense, I'm still creating fairness because I give kids, a high level of curriculum. I make it rigorous for them. So I'm still giving them justice when, their community may not.
Were you in any clubs or organizations in school, in college?
Not in college. I just chose to focus on I was working at the time and education, so just trying to have both of those. I also got married during that time, so just trying to juggle everything. I'm no longer married, but I got married at the time, and so just trying to juggle all those things. In high school, I was part of the National Honor Society and clubs like that, but I just didn't have the time in college.
Okay. And what happened to that marriage? I know you don't talk often about that. You mentioned that you've been married before, but what happened to that? Was it just y'all fell out in love? It just shouldn't have happened, or?
Just too young. Both young. Both didn't have super great examples of long-lasting marriages, long-lasting healthy marriages. And we just weren't set up for success, neither one of us. And we recognized things he wanted and things I wanted. We just weren't aligned. He wanted children, I didn't. Those are major things. So we had to go our separate ways.
Yeah. You even didn't want kids then?
I did not. And we went to the preacher, and he told the preacher this. I also told the preacher. The preacher named that was, something serious that we were discussing. And we both needed to be on the same page. I just didn't want that grave it's a major responsibility.
It is, but that's what women, as a woman, that's what we supposed to do.
I write my own story. And so, like, I don't typically follow, like, this is the book of the woman. Like, that book don't work for me. That book, like, is outdated for me. And so, even at that age, I knew I didn't want that. I knew I wanted to focus on my career. I knew I didn't want the life my mom had. I watched my mom work just endlessly to give me everything I wanted and needed.
Wow.
And never, failed me. Like when I got my senior portraits, and back then there's $700+ and my father is saying I don't need them. My mom wrote a check for all of it. And so I just watched her work so hard. I got my first car because of her. Like all of these things I got when my friends had two parents in the home, I got those same things too, with one parent in the home. But I didn't know how hard she worked to get that. And so I didn't want that life. And I recognized too that the world that I was like being brought up in as I was getting grown, I started seeing more and more people divorce. I started to see marriage have less of the weight that it should have. And they were just diluting what marriage should be. And I knew my husband and I would not be together for an eternity. I just felt it. And so, like you said, I knew at that age, I told you, my grandma said I've been here before. I just knew he wouldn't be. I just knew he wouldn't be good father material. No disrespect to him. But
so you glad you didn't have kids with him?
Yeah, he just wasn't mentally capable. Like when I would say like I'm gonna leave you, he's like attempted. When I say attempted, I'm not shaming anyone that has gone through this, but he attempted suicide with double quotes because you don't take 5 ibuprofen telling me you trying to leave here. So he was trying to get my attention. So that's just not you're not ready. And I just didn't want that. And I just felt like I had to jeopardize so much if I had a child. What if my spouse passes away? What if my spouse leaves? What if my spouse gets a child on the outside? And it's like, you know what? I don't want to do time and have to, me and Bertha have to be together, for double-digit years. So, let me just not do that. And so God has a path for all of us. And in talking to my aunt one day, one of my favorite aunts, her name is Lily Nash. We call her Tilly. I love her to death. She said, did Jesus have you? I was telling her how people just stayed on me when I was talking about, you don't have a kid. You had a husband. You don't have kids. And she said, did Jesus have any children? I said, no. She was like, well, don't we, want ourselves to be in the image of Jesus? I said, I love you to death. I always do that. And so it's like, God got children that ain't, he didn't have, but they did.
Yeah.
And so I've just placed so many pieces of me in this world with other people's children. If I had my own children, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And so what's most important? Helping hundreds of kids or just one or two?
Yeah.
So I'm the fun, quote unquote, auntie, although I don't have children. My cousin, like, I'm auntie to those kids. And so, so I still get my fulfillment. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. Never have,
Okay. So, you say you didn't do any organizations or clubs. What is the most memorable part of college you remember?
Oh, probably being super reckless and mischievous. I had, well, the parties were one thing. That was always fun. But I would say being just a big kid, like running in the boys' dorm, beating on their door, running out. I had got a 6-speed Nissan, and I drove down a straightaway just to see what it can do at like 100 miles an hour, and the police came out. The campus police threatened to take me to jail. I was fun. These boys like chased us like down the highway, and I was always a daredevil. And God just let me drive fast and not hurt nobody. But stuff like that. Like, just,
wow.
yeah. And I ran from the police before while in college because my license had got suspended. And I was jetting it trying to get to the courthouse. And just so happened, the state trooper in Lexington, Mississippi decided he wanted to come the opposite way. And he turned his lights on. I floored it to 6 feet. And it was a John Deere tractor place that had 2 trucks. I feel like Jesus had parked on both sides. And I just zipped up my little car in the middle of those trucks and went into the John Deere tractor place acting like I was looking for something, knowing darn well I didn't need anything out that John Deere tractor place. But the Lord saved me, and I went and got my license reinstated, Jesus. And
oh my God.
Right ever since. Yeah, little daredevil.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we had our little, me and Alex, that was my, he's the first guy that I've been with that we went through all the stages. We met in art school. We were friends. Then we, started dating. Then we got engaged. Then we got married. And then we had, Jean-Michel. But he is somebody that I have done everything with. He knows everything about me, stuff that I hadn't shared with nobody else. He knows me and I know him inside and out. But that's my ride or die. This is my 3rd marriage and he's going to be my finale. But he's my person. He is my person. I know that definitely because, we made our own, we had a church wedding, a big church wedding, but, we made all our own invitations and the people from me helping so many other people, we had people, we didn't hardly have to buy anything. We didn't have to pay for it. We only paid for our attire and our photos because we didn't know anybody who could take video and photography. But we didn't pay for the DJ. We didn't pay for our cakes, and we had his and her cake. And but we had 2 different friends make each of those, and we didn't pay for the catering because we had a full dinner. We served a full dinner. Didn't pay for. My aunt did the catering. And all we paid for was the food. We gave her money to buy the food. We did buy flowers. And my mom was not a florist, but she does floral arrangements but with artificial flowers. So she decorated our wedding, and we had an awesome wedding. People are still talking about our wedding. And it's like, and I felt good. I felt like, because I remember before I walked in, when they had closed the doors after the girls had walked in to meet the guys, I remember they shut the doors and I was standing outside waiting to go in, and I was kind of tearing up. And one of my cousins, my cousin Kathy, the singer, she came up to me. She was like, "Ree, are you okay?" She was thinking I was crying, like I didn't want to do this. I was like, no, these are happy tears. I can't believe that I'm marrying the man of my dreams today. And these are happy tears. And no, I'm not even thinking about running. I can't wait to get inside there to be with my person. So, and she was like, "Girl, we can get on out of here." I was like, "No, it's not like that. No. It's total opposite. I can't wait to get in there to marry my person." Yeah. So, but girl, it's been a journey. It's been a journey because my other 2 husbands were something else. And like I say, 3 is my number. My name is Renee. It was made up from Renee, Denise, and Felicia. I'm 3 times a lady. And 3, everything that happens to me comes in 3s.
So we're going to keep it going then.
Yeah.
We're going to keep it going with the 3s.
Yeah. So, but I couldn't be happier. But would you like to share your story about your person, Frederick, because I love to hear people's backstories. How, where did you guys meet? How, when, and where did you meet?
We were at both at the Battle of the not Battle of the Bands, just the Tennessee Southern Heritage Classic that happens every year with PSU, and it was definitely at the time. I know they played Jackson State a lot for the Classic, but it was Valley that year, and so I was there with a friend in the skybox. So I was like lucky enough like not to sit in the heat, and so a friend was yes in the skybox. And to be super transparent, I was actually on a date with someone who I did not like, who was rude, and I got in the skybox because of him. And you know, he's just really being really weird, really obsessive. If anyone like looked at me and things like that, you know, not Beyonce or anything, but you know, I'm me. And so he was acting like that, and he had to go do some work for the TX time. And he was like, hey, I'm leaving. I'm going to go down on the field. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, fine. I'm sitting, you know, watching the game, chilling. A friend was supposed to come with me. And she was not able to come. Just, I don't know what happened. We had planned this. Yes, God said no. So I go down
God made it to where she couldn't come.
He did. Now, I'm not saying like she made the competition for me because, you know, she's short, she's cute and all, but, you know, Amazons always win. She just couldn't make it. And so I was like, dang. So I was bummed out and I almost didn't go. But I decided to drive from Greenwood, Mississippi to Memphis. Went on a date with the guy. There by, like I said, in the skybox looking at the game. And I get up to go get food because they had food catered. And when I got my plate and I turned around to go sit down, the guy is this guy I had seen walking back and forth like he had went to the bathroom. We made eye contact. We spoke. And so when I turned around, he was looking at me and he mouthed, I like you. And I started laughing. And so I just went and sat down and ate my food, you know, kind of brushed it off like it was a guy just being nice. And he came down and started chatting with me. And the guy who I was on a date with, because we weren't serious, so it was like really our second date. And so he came back and he had like a lot of gifts and things he had gotten from the vendors. And I guess maybe he thought that was like supposed
big time for you.
Yeah, and it was like, you just been so rude. And so I didn't like handle it with him right there. I continued to talk to Frederick because nothing was happening that was out of character or disrespectful. We had a really good conversation. He invited me to a party, and I was like, well, hey, you know, let him know what my circumstances were. And so we exchanged info, and I told him I would give him a call at some point. And we were leaving. The guy I was on a date with was just losing it because a coach was like being nice to me and kind and just complimenting me. And he just started going off on me about it. I was like, oh no, this is not going to work because he's going to make me catch a charge. So I was like, okay. And so when we got back, you know, we chatted. I was normal with him. And we got back to the room and I told him that I was leaving. I'm going to go hang out with some friends here. And I actually met up with Frederick. And we went to a party. And the rest is history.
Wow.
And I actually I did get super intoxicated, which is not normal for me, but I was really young too. And I fell asleep here at his house. And when I woke up the next morning, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy probably attacked me. And he wasn't even in the same room as me. It was in his he was in his little man cave area on the couch. And so I was like, ooh, I'm safe. Like I went to checking everything, including my ears. I was like, okay, make sure everything is safe. And so, baby. And so he was a gentleman. And so when I went back to the room, and nothing happened. And he tried nothing. And he didn't take advantage of me. And so that meant a lot to me. And when I went back to the hotel room,
everything.
It meant everything. And so when I went back to the hotel room, the guy who I was on a date with was gone. And I was like, so I called him and he was like, yeah, I left. And this is when he let it be known. He said, yeah, I left. I had to get back home because I had to get home to my wife. Wait a minute, sir. Wait a minute. Wait, hold on.
A wife?
Take it back to Blockbuster. I don't want it. I know I don't want that video. I don't want it. And I was like, wait a minute. What do you mean wife? He was like, yeah, I got a wife. But he was like snapping. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm glad this experience happened. Because now I don't have to be a part of a triangle that I didn't even know I'm a part of.
Exactly.
I was like, you know what? You should be better to your wife. And I hung up on him and I've never talked to him since.
Wow.
Yep, so I'm glad that happened. Because, dude.
Things happen for a reason. Things always happen for a reason.
Yep. And Frederick and I had been together right at a year when my mom attempted suicide. And he didn't leave. He was always there. He supported me in getting her, gave me informed me of the resources on how to get her to, certain facilities.
Mm-hmm.
And he just helped me grow because I was a handful. I was one of those orange cats. The orange cat is orange marmalade cat. Those cats bite you and all kind of stuff. I was an orange cat, and he calmed me down. And so, but he calmed me down in a manner that no one else had ever tried to. He didn't say he was. He would just be like, Jackie, that's not how you relate when you're in a relationship. He was just what I needed. And everyone who knows him says that, you needed that at that point in time in your life. So, yeah. And he's just been supportive. So that's how we met. I know some people would say, oh, you should be embarrassed that you were on a date. Well, darling, I was on a date with a guy that I didn't even know was married. He should be embarrassed.
Yeah.
No.
He should be not embarrassed. He should be ashamed. I wonder if his wife know that today.
Well, that's why I didn't say his name, because I don't want to get nobody in trouble. But this is, granted, that was 16, 17 years ago. But, yeah.
And chances are, you wasn't the first one.
I'm quite sure I wasn't, because he was just moving too freely.
Yeah.
With me, as if he's single. Because the way we're interacting with these thousands and thousands of people at this event, and a selected group of people in the skybox, you would think that he's single. He never gave me any inclination he wasn't. And so I was like,
I ain't gonna even ask about a ring because that's just too easy to take off. So
he didn't have on a ring because that would have been my first red flag. No.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah.
I'm surprised. And you and Frederick not married.
We're not. We've discussed it several times. We're discussing it more seriously now, and it's more so he's waiting on me. And so I have the opportunity to either go back to Ohio and work there or stay here in Memphis. And this week I'll have that decision. I'll have that answer. I talk to God. I'll get word from the company in Ohio. The company is a Fortune 500 company. And so Freddie supports the move going back if I move back. And once I decide to place my feet somewhere semi-permanently or permanently, then we'll go ahead and take that next step. And so we've decided the way we want to do it. I told him that I was, because of the age difference, unfortunately, at the beginning of our relationship, some of his family and friends assumed that I was a gold digger or someone looking for a come up because there is a 21-year age difference. However, they did not know that I was coming. Yes. However, you don't look at your. However, they didn't know that I was coming in a relationship already with a bachelor's degree, already with experience, and actually starting out and financially on the books, having a salary a little bit higher than his. And so they had no idea that, at 24, I was able, to do really well for myself. So if you feel like that about me, then your thoughts really probably hadn't changed a whole lot about me. And even if they have, you pass judgment on me.
Yeah.
And we may do that to people, but some of these people were officials in the church and things of that nature. And, people who, claim to be, Christians who follow what God wants and strive to live their life in that way, passing judgment on me and speaking ill of me.
Yeah.
And so I told him that I would rather us just do like my cousin did. Just go to the courthouse, get married, go on a trip. We can let the people know who need to know. I said, but if I was going to invite anyone to a small ceremony, it would only be people who I could go to about my marriage. People who want to see my marriage flourish and thrive and go to eternity. People
you don't need no drama at your wedding. There's something that y'all paying for out of y'all pocket. They coming there to eat y'all free food and bring their gifts that they paid for. No, you don't need that kind of drama in your life.
So
save your money and go on a trip.
Yeah, I said I would have my cousin probably take the photos, but the people who would be aware of it were people who would be like you, like people who are serious about their marriage, who put God, at the forefront of it, and really strive to keep their unit together. And because I can be a hothead still at times. And the only child will pop up, and I'm like, I'm leaving here. I gotta go somewhere, and it's like you can't do that. Because I used to do that a lot when we first got together, and I don't do that now. I mean, you can't do that when you're trying to. Yeah, and I wasn't grown then, and so but so that's how we met, and we've been together ever since.
And how long is that?
What did I say? 16 years? 16, almost 17.
Girl, y'all been together almost, we made 19 years married this year in March. Y'all been together a long, you just need to go on and make that commitment. And don't invite them phony Christians.
Actually, I just did the math. It'll be 17 this year. So.
Don't invite those phony Christians.
Girl,
family members or not. Yes. And y'all spend y'all money, y'all hard-earned money on going somewhere where both of y'all want to go and can lay out and enjoy yourself.
Girl,
don't waste your money on no wedding.
We're going to the courthouse.
Yeah.
We're going to save all the money. Yes, to do that because he is frugal and he believes in there's no point in us getting in debt to be married. So, he truly believes in it.
No, we weren't in debt either.
But he's he's not.
We paid for everything up front. So we were debt free on the day of the wedding.
Too. Yeah.
After we paid, we gave them checks out at the wedding, the people we still owe, like the photographer and the videographer. And that was it.
But see, at this day and age, how everything is inflated, back then I had a $5,000 dress. So at this day and age, I would want something even grander. And it don't make sense to do all of that. So, no. So we will at some point.
And y'all already married.
Well,
how long is common law?
Well, I don't know about common law, but I'm going to get the real law because if something happens, I already told him this week, you need to go put me on whatever you need to put me on because I got my own life insurance policy on. Okay?
Yeah.
We there.
How could you do that without being married, though?
Maybe because it's Tennessee, but as long as he agrees, he signed it.
Oh, okay.
As long as he agrees, and he signed everything. And so he knows, he's aware, like, as long as I have his information, social, date of birth, he signs, good to go. And so I have my own on him. But like I told him, like, just being extremely candid, he has a brother that doesn't like me. A couple of them, actually. And I was like, I don't need that happening. If something happens to you, people think they're going to move me up out of here. So I told him, like, you need to go and handle that business, add me to the stuff with your son on it, whatever it is that you want to add me to. But,
has he been married before?
Yeah, he's been married before. And he has one son who's an adult who lives in Texas. So.
Okay. Do you know if he got any damage from the barrel?
I'm not sure. I hadn't talked to him. He would have said so if his son died. I think he may live in an apartment or something. But he did have to stay at work some nights because he worked at a hospital. So he did have to stay at work some nights due to having no power.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just writing down some notes.
Okay.
So, congratulations ahead of time. You got the ring?
No, because I need to give him some ideas. I don't want him to pick out anything for me because his taste in jewelry and mine are different. And so his thinking is, I'm going to get you what I want. No, you're not. I'm going to give you 3 to 5 examples, and you will have something to choose from.
Girl, me and Alice went and picked our rings out together. That way it was everybody got what they wanted. And then he paid, we each made payment arrangements, and we paid on them until they were paid off.
Well, we'll get there at some point. But
yeah. But at least y'all headed that way. So it was
we are.
What y'all doing? Y'all too old to still be playing house.
Well, Frederick is the type of person who wants his wife with him. I've been all over this world putting myself out here, as a flight attendant, as different things, as an educator in different places. He wants his wife at home with him.
Flight attendant? When
I was
a flight attendant? Oh, okay.
When I was super young, like early 20s. When I was with him, actually. I was like 25, 26. And so he wants some stability. Frederick is 62. Frederick is about to retire from his job. He can retire now, but he's about to retire from his job. He wants some stability. And so he doesn't want me all over the world. He supports me in it, but he's not ready to say I do until I put my feet and kind of plant them for a good period of time. So we've discussed what that looks like.
Girl, you and Zon's godmother are a lot alike. We met in Texas at a job we both used to work together at, and she left there after some years. She left there and went and found another job at the YMCA, and then from there she went, I think from the YMCA she worked at another company. Then from there she found it was COVID, so she found a job at the in DC. Then from DC she lived up there for a couple of years, and then she moved back home during COVID. Yeah, she lived in DC and COVID hit, so she moved back to Houston because they was doing virtual anyway, where she didn't have to go into the office every day. But from there, she kept job hunting and found a job in California. So her husband, they got married in Houston. They met and got married in Houston, but he lost his job at some point, but he ended up finding a job for he's a postmaster now.
Okay.
With the post office. And he works in California. They both now live in California, but in different cities. He's a postmaster general in LA, and she lives in Sacramento. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
No, San Diego. Because Ron went to spend a week up there, well, like 5 days up there with her, and got to hang out with him. Because him also, but she had a great time, and I've been wanting her to have time with them because they do a lot, they travel a lot, and I want her to have another experience outside of us, where she's traveling and experiencing different things. And I feel like she never had kids of her own either. He has kids from another marriage, but she never had kids, never wanted kids, even when she lived with her sister who has kids. She was an educator as well. Marsha's skin would be like crawling, just like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. When they were little, because when she moved in with them, Darlene had a toddler and 2 school age. No, a toddler, a baby, a toddler, and a school age child. So, and Marsha would just be shaking her head like, Lord have mercy, I can't do this. So she never had kids of her own. So I asked her to be John's godmother because we were close friends. She was like my sister. And, she's been a great godmother. She buys her stuff for school every year and, sends her birthday gifts and Christmas gifts. So she's on it. They talk every Thursday. Well, almost every Thursday. But she's going for her, doctorate degree now.
Okay.
So she's in school, so sometimes they don't get to talk because of her school schedule. But for the most part, every Thursday at 8:00 they're talking, and I use that as giving Zon a more well-rounded view, because sometimes as a parent, I know your view can be skewed. But with her being an outside person, she's able to look in on the situation and possibly give a different view than what I've given. So, and I appreciate her having, her being John's godmother. She's a great godmother. And, she's doing a real good job. And I don't know, cause my other kids didn't have godparents. She's the first child that I've had that has had a godmother and godparents ordained in the church we were going to then. So we actually had a ceremony for them to become her godparents, because her godfather is Alex's uncle, Uncle Ray. But they're on it. They've been on it. Yeah. So, but okay, so hold on. Would another reason that you haven't gotten married, would your parents' relationship have anything to do with that?
No, I want to be stable, and so I don't want to be, back and forth. I want to be pretty much set, in a particular city, particular state, in my home, doing what I typically do when I am in the same home with Frederick, and that's cooking, cleaning, and just being a homemaker.
Yeah. Okay. So, what are your favorite hobbies or pastimes?
Favorite hobby definitely is fishing. That as soon as I'm done this interview, that is what I'm doing. Yes. And so I was told that I didn't know I was gonna have this much to say. But yeah, we were supposed to be gone at 2:00 to go fishing. So we're running a little late. But yeah, fishing is something I do with my grandmother a lot and my great auntie. And, when Frederick and I go, he feels good that I don't need him to help me with anything. I bait my own hook. I put everything on. I fix my fishing pole. If anything happens, I take my fish off. There's like 1 or 2 fish species that I won't take off. I'll cut the line, or he will take them off. But other than that, yeah. And it's an overcast.
I never would have thought.
Yes, I'm a country girl. I love fishing. I love fishing. It is serene. It's quiet. When I was living in Ohio, my landlord gave me the keys to one of his properties where he has a bean farm and a private lake on the property, and I would often go out there and fish and just be at peace.
Wow. Yeah, because it is peaceful out there.
That's the introvert in me.
Well, okay. And I know you know that readers are leaders. So what's your favorite new read, the title and author?
I am not a big book reader.
Really?
Nope, I'm not. I haven't gotten into. I got several books that friends have given me that I need to read, but I have not. And I think it's because, like, being an educational leader, you're made to read so much about education that I just don't have the space to like take out a book to read it in my free time. Like in my free time, I want to have something that stimulates my brain in a different way. So if it's
and you could always say the Bible.
Yeah.
Because one of my cousins said she don't get to read a lot because she has small kids and their activities. So she said, well, I read the Bible every day. Does that count? I'm like, girl, that's the best book you could read.
Well, yeah, I do that daily with my morning devotional. So I
get all right. So the Bible. So you too.
I mean, it's on my phone, but I definitely
it don't matter the method. You read the Bible.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, every morning I do that.
What self-care habits do you have to take care of your mental health?
One is, of course, having a therapist, a great therapist and psychiatrist, being extremely honest and open with them so they know how to assist and help you. And I have get my pedicure. That's something that has to happen. If I go to a shop or do it myself, my nails, I typically just take time and do my own manicure and wear some cute press-ons. And then I have a membership at Massage Envy. And so I hadn't been in a couple of months, and they text me about I got some credits and stuff. So that's another way. And just, of course, being African American, getting my hair done. So.
Okay. What do you regularly do to further educate yourself, such as reading books, listening to podcasts, attending church, Bible studies, seminars, or workshops?
Church is, of course, one thing. It's been online a lot lately because I've been back and forth with states, but I still make sure to get it in. And like I said, just for education,
it don't matter, just so you get it in.
Yeah, I make sure to get it in. And then just like I said, with education, just having to read, about different curriculum or something like that. But that's mostly it. My past career that I just ended months ago has caused complete burnout. And so I've just been trying to relax, rest, and be okay with not having work to do after work.
Anything to do.
After work.
Having a clear schedule.
I taught summer school, but not having to do anything after that other than go to the gym and do what I want to do.
Yeah. Okay. Would you care to share about your recent job experience where you lived and had the property, that you were in a different position? You were a leader of your own school. Would you like to share that?
Sure. I guess long story short, I was selected out of a nationwide search to be a principal of a school in Cincinnati, Ohio. I requested to be in a fellowship because I really wanted to know how to be a better principal and be a principal since it was my first time. And 2 months in, I was asked to be the full-time principal for the K-4 elementary school. And so I was pulled out of my fellowship, made the full-time principal, and in 72 days, I was super successful in turning the school around with culture, meaning kids were no longer fighting and getting suspended for having egregious behavior. Parents were no longer coming to the school and using profanity to express themselves or get their points across. And parents also were not following my staff to their cars, threatening them or using intimidation. And so super proud of that. But all of that caused me to be burnt out because my days would start at 4:30 in the morning and typically went in until about 10:30, 11 at night. And so having to be for the people during the day and then be a principal at night, you just never had the opportunity to get much of a break. Yeah. And you're working on the weekends. You're working 7 days a week, man. And it's just a lot to be responsible for and held to high expectations to have behavior set a certain way, but also those kids who have been performing below average for consecutive years to now achieve academic growth that is average or above average. Yeah. I know those things can happen because I've seen them and made them happen with kids. But we also have to be realistic, and we have to give, students rigorous curriculum that they can access mentally. And we can always build kids up. We can always change curriculum, but we need to meet them where they are. And so having a lot of shovels in the dirt, I guess you could say, and not one particular person to report to, that was difficult as well because there was just so much misalignment. And I'm not speaking ill of the organization. There's just a lot of misalignment in the organization that is going to cause them to lose some very great leaders and teachers.
Wow. That's sad.
I agree.
And the kids are going to suffer the most, unfortunately.
Kids and families and communities always suffer. A teacher can go to another school, principal can, secretary or janitor, they can go elsewhere. But the people who live in that community who either don't have the resources currently to lead their community or don't know how to obtain those resources, they're still there.
Yeah. Wow. So, that seemed like a huge transition and an awfully heavy load for you to carry as the leader of the school. And for them to pull you out of your fellowship, they obviously thought you could handle it. But you tried it and gave it your best. And even it burned you out because you just felt like I am doing my very best and I'm giving my all, but I can't do it. I can't do any more. There's no more left. So it does end up burning you out. So does that give you a different perspective having held that position as the leader of a school? Does that give you a different perspective of other leaders of school from your past?
It does, and it's kind of hard to compare because for me it's comparing apples and oranges because the principals and teachers that I had growing up, they didn't have to deal with a lot of the things that teachers now have to deal with growing up. We had school counselors that we hardly ever had to use. There were certain kids who needed to see the school counselor, but for the most part, the school counselor, when I was growing up, had a super easy job, didn't do a lot. But now we don't have school counselors in schools a lot. And especially in charter schools, you have a nurse, but you don't have a school counselor. So guess who's a school counselor? The teacher.
That's surprising to me. How can they think and the nurse may not be full time.
Right.
She's nursing at more than one school. Because even at Dawn School, the nurse she's there on certain days. And I'm like, well, what do the kids do on days that you're not at? She said, I don't know. They set up a program where the child can just go. They'll either call the parent or the child can go lay down in the nurse's office, but by themselves.
Well,
so they're not even being attended.
So they don't have a school counselor in most charter schools.
And I didn't even know.
The teacher.
I had no idea. Is that because of funding?
Schools find funding for all types of things. And in my experience, I don't think there's a great push for counselors to be in charter schools because teachers oftentimes are expected to have this social emotional learning portion of their classroom as opposed to having a counselor maybe for kids to be able to go to. The responsibility of being a counselor is now placed on the teacher in a charter school. My experience in a private school, very different. There's a full-time counselor in that school, a full-time nurse in that school, but
Exactly.
it's not provided in the schools that are in the urban communities. And I just feel that a lot of times there's not enough push. Now,
and that's where it's needed most in urban communities. Because
now the teachers
don't need it.
And now the teacher is having to go into her tool bag and pull out all kinds of tools when you come in as a kid, because your parent has used very vulgar language and called you all types of things. Now your self-esteem is negative 25. You're going into a classroom with a very defeated attitude, and now the teacher is the one that's either about to get that wrath you got to give someone, or you don't want to participate, or you're still dealing with those words that were said to you. And so now that's placed on the teacher. And so now the teacher has to do social emotional learning in the classroom when kids should actually have a counselor. So
that's ridiculous.
Because of so many reasons. But in private schools, you have the people who are there. Now, in my school, I had a social worker, but is that truly as beneficial as a counselor?
No, because they don't do the same thing.
They don't. And so many
kids.
A
social worker's job is to, if the counselor can't handle it, it gets passed on to the social worker if that's above her pay grade or her education level.
That means the counselor would have found something that needs to be addressed, perhaps to some higher officials.
Yes,
kids
legally.
Need counselors in schools.
Yes.
Period, point blank, and teachers should not be doing the counseling anymore.
No, because that's not what they have a degree in.
Guess who's the nurse? So there's no nurse. The teacher. Guess who has a first aid kit and Band-Aids and all of these things and needs to get ice packs? The teacher. The teacher can no longer just teach. And so that's what I mean when I say comparing apples to oranges. Because we had all those things growing up. These kids don't have those things now.
And they need it. Kids are kids.
Desperately.
They need nurses in schools. They need counselors in school. I understand them they don't need social workers in school. They need counselors. If it's something that the counselor can't handle, it gets passed on to the social worker. But they don't have to be a part. They don't have to have a desk sitting in the school every day. Because the counselor,
you don't need a social worker because as an educator, you're a mandated reporter. So you're supposed to report things to the DFS and anyway.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need a social worker. It's great to have, but I need a counselor. I also had an occupational therapist there. And that was fine. But in my opinion, I didn't have enough kids that truly needed OT. There were kids who needed it, and I'm glad they got it. Don't get me wrong. But it was more so like, where can we put this funding? Let's get a social worker in here. Let's get the counselor instead. So,
and I'm pretty sure the social worker salary is more than a counselor.
I'm quite sure it is too, because we were paying our social worker a really hefty salary.
Mm-hmm. Counselors are cheaper. And kids need counselors. Counselors are trained to handle problems that the child is having possibly at home or in the classroom. Social workers should be handling social matters, big matters like molestation and other big cases that's outside of the counselor's jurisdiction.
With molestation, homelessness, neglect. Things of that nature.
Yes.
And so even though they can do those things, any teacher can report that. Because any teacher, anyone in that school is a mandated reporter. You have to report those things. So I technically could, once the counselor sees what's going on, anyone in that school can report it. Even without the counselor seeing it. A kid comes to your classroom, they got wet marks off their face. You can stop what you're doing and make the report. Let your principal know what's going on. Make the report.
Yay. What is this world coming to, Jackie?
Well, that's why I typically treat myself with herbs in the kitchen. Freddie just had a sore throat. He was like, well, use chloroseptic. I said, no.
That only treats the symptoms. I'll make you a very warm water and salt gargle. You need to take all of it. And then I'm going to make you an herbal tea. And there are about 7 different ingredients in my kitchen that I use. He was like, I feel it already. Of course you do. I can't rely on the kids that are growing up now to be my future doctors. And that's not for every kid. Zon can definitely be that. But how many Zon Michelles are there? And so how many Zon Michelles have I truly come across? And so I just try to do what I can do to educate myself more. And I guess that's something I do, educate myself on, like the different herbs in the kitchen that I can use to heal my body.
Yeah.
This world is different now. So
totally. We going to hell in a handbasket.
And it's more so not because I'm concerned about like what kids are going to be doctors. I'm just looking at like how food is changing, how the prices are changing, how the food is no longer real in some places. And it's like, I'm just trying to take care of myself. Like I know how to do a garden and trying to be a self-sufficient.
Alex has a whole garden, and he'd be the last person I'd expect to be growing his own vegetables.
Well, tell him I said congratulations.
Yeah. So, recently you lost a love of your life, somebody who had been with you for years. Your fur baby, Smokey.
Yes.
Forgive me, but I can't recall his breed. What kind of dog was he?
He was a lab pit mix. He's a mix because we got him from the shelter, so they don't truly know everything, but they look at like the main characteristics.
Yeah. And tell us about the type of relationship that you guys had, because you shared it with me when I first contacted you about we had a little conversation the morning that I was going to the bank to take care of some business. You told me the kind of relationship that you and him had.
I got Smokey at 6 months, and so it was after Frederick's dog, Nitro, had passed away from like the dog had been around for like 15 or more years. And so a year had gone by, and I was like, well, I need a new dog. And went to the shelter, and ironically, there were like so many dogs barking. And my mom at the time was afraid of dogs. And so I was using that also as a method of teaching her how to perform and be okay with dogs. And I wanted to get those stigma, just out of her. Yeah. And it worked. But anyway, he was the only dog that was like, he was one of the ones that wasn't barking. And I was like, I told the lady, I said, hey, I want to see him. I said, hey, man, what's going on with you? You want to go home with me? He's like, ooh, like making dog noise. I was like, yeah, let me holler. So we got him out, and he's been my best friend ever since. Everywhere that I've lived, from Memphis to New Orleans to Cincinnati, he has gone with me. And so they call him the traveling dog, which he was. And he was just like my child. He had dog visits and groomings, and
you said he was like a toddler.
Yeah, like a toddler. Like when he got older, like I cooked his food. I did his chicken breast and green beans and rice. Like I treated him really well. And
so he didn't eat dog food.
He did for a while. Most of his life he ate dog food. When he became a senior dog, I started cooking his food because he had some kind of allergy. And when he got better with that, then I went back to dog food, but it was a specific brand and a specific type because he had skin allergies. And while we were in Cincinnati, moving out of my house, he had a seizure and he just never recovered. And lucky enough, I was there and I caught him and everything, but it was like my kid. And I have to actually go and pick him up because he's been cremated in Cincinnati, well, actually in Lebanon. But he was everything to me. I don't have my own children, but I had taught, Smokey to say mom, and I have to say that video. I completely forgot. So I can't take and things like that. And so he was his mama. And there's still a void missing with him not being here. So.
Wow. I know you guys will miss him. Well, I know you guys miss him already.
Still to this day. I mean, I had a moment last weekend where I cried because I was cleaning up and there was some dog hair in the vacuum cleaner's canister. And it's like, my boyfriend's like, what's wrong? It's like, I'm still cleaning up and smokies out here. And so we've been actively on the hunt and look. And so a relative was like, you're really looking there? I was like, yeah, I need a dog now. Like, that wasn't the plan. The plan was for him to get older, for him to maybe get sick, and then for me to get another dog while he's on his way out. Yeah. That didn't happen. He was like, I'm going to get on up out of here. So I was like, okay, now I need to go get one.
It's not like he planned it, Jackie.
Yeah, he still waited till we went back to Cincinnati and was moving out that house. He still waited till we went all the way back to Cincinnati and was moving out my house. So
coincidence.
I'm gonna coincidence him. He just waited. So I've been looking, and we found some, but it's just not the right one yet. So
how you gonna know when it's the right one?
I just feel it. It'll be like how the dog responds.
Like you did with him.
Yep, I just feel it. So I've been through several, and the ones that I end up, like, by the time I get to them, they're gone. So I'm still trying to stick with the shelter because that's where I got Smokey from. And I always say that, we rescue dogs, but they rescue us. So
that's true. That's true. Yeah. Okay, this is the last question, and then we're going to go through the realities of your past and what does it mean to be refined by the fire. You've been thinking about hosting your own podcast, right?
Yes.
Do you have a name yet?
I have a name yet. I can't release it just yet because there's so many other podcasters out there. But I do. I just need to narrow down, I guess, what my main focus would be because I have so much to share. And it just may have to be narrowed down into, like, different series. Because there's so much I have to share. And so just like you were shocked today to learn some things about me, there's like so much more. And so my mom always says, like, I could write a book. Just on
Girl, my whole life. You need to write a book. No, actually, I could write several books. And this podcast is going to help me do just that. Because it has a transcription thing on it. So I don't have to worry about writing my own notes, thinking of stories and writing my own notes. So this is helping me catalog my life. Yeah.
Okay.
And it'll be online. So even after I'm gone, other generations after me will be able to continue to listen and learn from my experiences because that's what I'm all about. Let me save you some trouble. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt and the bruises to prove it. You don't necessarily have to go through the heartache and all the troubles that I have. Learn from my experiences. So that's what I want to show people that Christians go through troubles too. We're not, just because we on the kingdom wagon don't mean that we get a pass. We go through just as much troubles and problems that other people do.
We do.
So, okay, now this is the last 4 questions. Okay. Your realities from the past where you just knew God had been involved because your situation suddenly changed. Something from the past 3 years of your life.
Past 3 years. Situation suddenly changed. Maybe I could say my situation suddenly changed. Maybe Frederick. He's rarely sick, and one day he was just like, well, 1 week. It was like a few days. He was just like vomiting and just couldn't keep anything down. And I thought it was a stomach bug. And something in me, which I guess was my discernment or the Holy Spirit, was saying, you need to go to the hospital. And he doesn't like the doctors. And I was like, you need to go to the hospital. I'm going to take you. And so he left and went. And while being there, they decided to keep him. And they found that there was a portion of his intestine that they needed to remove. But all along, on those days, yes, during those days, and he's never been hospitalized in all of his 60-plus years of living. And so the doctor was like, hey, could be a tumor or it could possibly be cancer or something. And so just out of fervent praying and asking other people to pray, and because he went to surgery quite immediately. And he came out and he was good, but in the midst of the days that he was vomiting, his kidneys were dying.
Whoa.
And yes, his kidneys were going into the stage of failure. Yes, and we did not know. And so I know it was nothing but God. It was nothing but God, because if he had waited like another day or so, he may not be here.
Yeah. But God. That's what I always say. But God.
Oh, it's God.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Memory of something from your young adult or teen years where you just knew that God had been involved because your situation suddenly changed.
Young adult or teen years. That's a good one. And this is like the same question where God is involved, right?
Yeah. Yeah. One of your but God moments when you was a young adult or teenager.
To the young adult, when I was like super young, freshly married, and my father just so happened to be around in the same state and literally like 20 minutes from me. And I gotten up that morning, had eaten dinner with my ex-husband, my husband at the time, eating dinner, got up in the middle of the night, vomiting. I knew I wasn't pregnant because I stayed on birth control and was very careful. And I just kept like vomiting. And so I was like, I'm going to the hospital. And I drove myself there in my 60 because he could not drive. He could not drive it. And they had me drink this cocktail, and then they came back like, hey, you're going to be going to surgery. No, I'm not. And I literally told them that when they told me like my appendix was infected, I was blessed that it hadn't ruptured. And so I used to be a floor secretary in my college days when I worked at the hospital. And I called someone I knew and asked, like, what surgeon was on call, and I said if I could come in. And they were super backed up that day. But the nurse was like, they can't stop you if you come. I'll go ahead and let the doctor know and let the surgeon know. And so, so I can't even, I guess maybe got some trauma that happened. Like, I don't remember why I called my father or what happened, but he just so happened to be in town. He didn't even live here. He lived in Memphis. He lived in Memphis. And
that was your stepdad, right?
No, that was my biological father.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The one who was incarcerated, the one who, we've had like a strange relationship.
Okay.
And so he just so happened to be in town. And he drove my car all the way back to Greenwood. And I just laid across my husband's lap, and I was just so still because I didn't want my appendix to rupture.
Wow.
And I know it was nothing but God. And my father went on his way.
Wow. Amazing.
Considering the relationship we have, it was.
But God.
But God.
God chose to let him be there at that time, just coincidentally, for him to drive you to another city, right?
Yep.
To have your emergency
surgery,
appendix surgery.
Because I was getting ready to graduate, mind you. I was getting ready to graduate from college, and I was telling them I can't miss graduation. Like, that was my concern. I can't miss graduation.
Wow. The things we choose to put in front of our own health.
I was like, I got to get closer to home. Like, I'm fine with the surgery, but I need to be closer to home because I got graduation coming up. So Okay. It's the God watches over children and fools, and there have been times I've been.
Exactly. Did you make it to your graduation?
I did.
Okay.
With honors, I did. I had my surgery. I healed in a matter of days. I stayed in the hospital for about 4 days. So about the fourth day, I was about to be psychotic. I was like, like I was losing. Like, I gotta get out of here. I can't do this. It's my first time, and I can't do it. And so I made it. So everything was good. I didn't even have to take the pain meds. They sent me home.
Oh, girl, that's good.
Yeah.
I ain't ever had a surgery where I've had surgery to where I haven't had to take the medicines that they gave me that long, but I still had to take them. You weren't taking nothing at all?
Well, they gave me morphine and things like that when I was in the hospital. But once I was released from the hospital and got home, I was fine.
Oh, girl, please.
I was fine the day they let me go home.
Like I say, I was patting myself on the back for not having to take I'd take just medicine for like 1 day. And the rest of the prescription I just held on to for later when something else came up. But, not taking anything after I got home? No, ma'am.
Well, and I think being an athlete helped a lot.
Yeah.
When I had a surgery, like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
My surgeon said being in amazing health and shape was a factor, and 2, they overcompensated for the anesthesia, and so I just kept like going to sleep at home, and I would take some pain meds just to like not have it wake up and I be in pain.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something about like I've only had like 2 surgeries, and I don't have to take a lot of pain meds when the first time I didn't have to take any, and this time I just took them to ward off any pain I may have, but thank the Lord, I've, been blessed.
Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and another memory or something perhaps you were told about your younger self when you were a child, a toddler, or an infant, where you knew God had been involved because your situation suddenly changed. Your younger self.
Mm-hmm. Some of my younger self. Oh. Maybe my great aunt, the way she said it wasn't necessarily the fondest way, but she would always, which is my father's aunt, she would always joke and say, that girl came here with a silver spoon in her mouth and she had a pencil in one hand and a book in the other. She's gonna be all right. And it was because my mom was studying for Beowulf when she went into labor with me. And
whoa.
Yep, and my mom missed the exam. She had me. 2 days later, homegirl went back and took that test and passed it. And so I take my hat off to her, even though, our relationship can be interesting at times because I think that we were both growing up together and she was trying to figure out how to be a parent.
Yeah.
I was just driving up the wall. So, I would say that was probably one of my best memories because even though, like, for me, it would actually, like, sometimes that would hurt my feelings. I would be like, well, is that a bad thing or a good thing?
Exactly.
But I realized that she was saying, I came into this world with everything I needed, even though it was a 1-bedroom shotgun house. I came into this world with a silver spoon, not financially, but with just everything else I needed. And I had a mom who, although all the odds were against her, she was successful. And she also made that happen for me and instilled that in me. And so that's one of the fondest memories that I have.
Yeah. Wow. The words of wisdom that was spoken that you misunderstood as a child, because I understand how that would make you feel as a little girl hearing that. You came in the world with a silver spoon in your mouth and what was the other part of it?
He said, I was born into this world with a silver spoon in my mouth, a pencil in one hand and a book in the other. and I would be all right. And it sounds like a little harsh with a little sweetness to it.
Yeah. But it was okay. That's exactly what it was.
It was.
You came into the world with wisdom and love.
In a not so favorable situation.
But I mean, Jesus came into the world in not such a good situation too. Can you imagine? You ever thought about how Mary felt being engaged to Joseph, and it was frowned upon to be with somebody that you wasn't married to?
Well, I guess I'm in the image of Jesus, honey, because my mama named Mary, and she was young, and she was a virgin, honey. And that's probably why she ain't had no kids after me, because I was something else. So, and Jesus ain't got no kids. I guess I will just keep striving to have the image of the Lord. So, I'm on the right track. Yes, God, I'm on the right track.
You know? I'm sitting here with my face just like, wow.
But we could do a couple of more podcasts because I have stories galore.
Yeah.
Or maybe when I interview you for mine, I can share just how I was really a tomcat. Like, really the only cat that would bite his owner. I was really like that. And people would not believe some of the mischievous actions I committed as a child and young adult.
I don't know if Jesus was mischievous as a little kid though.
Oh, that's why I'm working now. Because I can't go back and fix what I did as a kid. But to live in his image now and just have children of the world and be good to them.
Yep. Okay, and this is the last question. What does being refined by the fires mean to you? And would you say that you've been refined by the fires?
For me, refined by the fires is just like when you physically refine something, like if you refine a precious metal, or if you refine silver perhaps, and go through the process and burn away all impurities, so you have perfect and pure silver with nothing wrong with it, no impurities, no blemishes. And I would like to say that I'm being refined because I still have impurities. I still have blemishes. And I'm going to have them until I leave this earth, because that's how I continue to connect to God, by repenting and asking for forgiveness for the things I do. So I would like to say I won't ever be completely refined, because Jesus is the only perfect one. But I'm being consistently, by my faith, my good work, my diligence to strive to have a good relationship with God, those things continue to refine me. But my human nature, even if I'm not trying to sin, something may happen in my mind mentally. And that's an impurity. That's a blemish. And so I will continue to be refined, but I don't think I will ever be fully refined until I leave this earth and God just completely washes me of every wrongdoing and allows me to enter into his kingdom.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Well, I thank you, Jackie, for allowing me to interview you for my little podcast.
Yeah,
and also, thanks so much to my audience for tuning in. You could have been doing anything else, but I'm extremely grateful that you chose to be here with us. It'd be appreciated if you'd also subscribe to my channel so you'll be notified when I upload new videos. Like, comment, and share this video with someone else who could stand to be in the know, aka edutained, educated and entertained. for their own personal journey. May you and yours stay blessed always. Okay, in the closing prayer, we thank you, Heavenly Father, for yet another successful podcast. We pray that it helps someone in this vast world who runs across my channel to recognize themselves in something they hear in this video or another of my videos that they can relate to before your return, because then it'll be too late. May they gain all things they need to help them live their lives better than they already have been. We pray that their ears be open and attuned to what they need as it brings to mind issues they or someone else they know have been going through. Give them the desire to share this with others who need to learn this knowledge. Keep them near you, O Lord, and continue to take care of them. Allow them to see you at work in their lives, so without a doubt they'll be able to testify to others that you did it for them. These are our prayers through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen. Y'all do not sleep on Reed's being redefined by the fire podcast. Thank you so much, Reed. I truly enjoyed this.
You're welcome, and thank you. And now you can go on and get ready for you and Frederick can go fishing, your favorite pastime or hobby. And my apologies for running over, but this has been a wonderful interview. And I pray that whoever runs across this, either now or in the future, that they have as much time, they learn as much as I have, and they've enjoyed our time that we spent together talking. I pray that God puts it on their heart and in their mind to change something in their lives or share it with another person who could use it, because we all need help and guidance.
We sure do. Yeah. That's how we look at each other. So
we learn from each other.
We do. Iron sharpens iron. And I'm
all the time. The same, sis.